All right. Hey, everybody. My guest today holds multiple certifications as a substance use disorder professional. She serves on committees with the NCPG. She's on the Washington State Gambling Counselor Certification Committee. Today, she is the Deputy Director at Evergreen Council on Problem Gambling. Please welcome to the modern meeting, Tana Russell. Welcome, Tana.
Hello, thank you for having me, and it's my pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Another person that I shook hands with and talked to for a little bit in Columbus back in July, and so glad we eventually got you on here. I'm very excited to learn about Evergreen, and you guys won some awards that day.
We did. Yep, thank you.
Awesome. Love that. Before we get into Evergreen, tell me about yourself. Like, how did you get into the field? How long have you been working with gambling disorders specifically?
Well, how I got into the field is nothing glamorous. Um, I was actually in the criminal justice field first. I was a parole officer for about 5 years first, then switched to becoming a drug and alcohol counselor. And I like to share this with people who are new coming into the field, a little bit of a story about me. When I first became a counselor, I was in Arkansas, and at the time, Arkansas did not have any casinos. So people would travel to Louisiana if they wanted to go to a casino. And me, silly me, mistakenly believed that gambling equaled casinos. And therefore, if we didn't have any, then nobody gambled, which is funny now. But that was the belief system. And I'm literally in a treatment group, and there's just chit chat going on. I think I'm a new counselor. I was in there by myself, and I don't remember if that's just because I was just starting to run groups by myself or because the, supervising counselor wasn't in yet. I don't remember what was said, but I made a joke about gambling. And I kid you not, the client sitting next to me goes, that's my other addiction, right?
Mm.
And I was just like, oh no, what? That's a thing, right? I had no idea. Like, nobody taught me that in counselor school. Nobody talked about it except glossing over, all abnormal psych and everything in the DSM and that sort of thing. But I'm like, wait a
Mm.
minute. Where is he gambling at? How does he have a gambling addiction in a state with no casinos? So that was my first seed planted. I've been seeking retribution for that ever since. So fast forward, how I actually got into the field after I moved to Washington is, like I said, it's not glamorous. I was a specialist in tobacco treatment. There was one other staff member who specialized in gambling treatment. Guess what happened to the clients' appointments and groups if either of us got sick or took vacation, right? So I cross-trained in gambling, he cross-trained in tobacco, and then we could cover the appointments for the clients so that their schedules were not interrupted. So nothing super exciting about how I got into it, but I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the work. I fell in love with the clients, and I quickly learned that this is such a deadly disorder. So many people are dying from it. We need all the people we can get doing this work who have a love and a passion for it. And so I never left, and I
Yeah.
still love it.
Yeah. So I got to know, what was your first impression once you started cross training, right? And once you started talking to people and kind of diving into it, what were your first impressions of gambling as a disorder?
Uh, it it's fascinating and also very logical. It's very logical and very illogical, right? It it's fascinating because of the way that behaviors, and gambling is one of many behaviors, can release such a high dose of dopamine that is so easily accessible, right?
Mm.
High dopamine dose, highly accessible, insert gambling, video gaming, sex, porn, whatever, right?
Mm.
These behaviors all do this. Gambling, what's interesting about it is how much it has in common with, say, the alcohol industry and its presence in our society. It's legal, it's socially acceptable. Um, Both do cause their level of harm. But what's unfortunate with gambling disorder is how much more stigma there is for that,
For sure. For
right?
sure.
People think, well, why don't you just stop going, not realizing that's about as helpful as saying, well, why don't you just stop being depressed?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Right. Like,
Yep.
oh, wish I'd thought of that.
Oh, that's funny. So what now did you so once you started doing it at the previous job, did you seek out Evergreen wanting to go all in, pun intended, with gambling?
Pun intended. I love it. Uh, I started as a treatment provider, did that for a number of years. I ended up cross training as a trainer with Evergreen. I had already been doing things as a trainer within the tobacco world. So I was
Mm.
somewhat used to giving presentations and public speaking and all of that. I cross trained as a gambling trainer, and then ended up coming on board in 2019. I had been at that point a counselor carrying caseloads, doing, I I worked with adults, adolescents, um, jails, hospitals, methadone. I had a whole variety of experiences, and I was just ready for something a little bit different, and to kind of help the next generation and recruit more people to doing this work. And working with Evergreen, I miss, in a sense, the day-to-day caseload a little bit, though I still get to do some of that. We own and maintain the Washington State Problem Gambling Helpline. Now we use a call center for that, but sometimes calls will come to our office. So anytime they come to our office, people, just transfer them to me. So I'm still interacting with those who are seeking help, though I'm trying not to turn that into a counseling session.
Mm.
Um, but I miss that a little bit, but I really like that I get to pay it forward. I had some really great people in my life who helped get me into this field, keep me informed of changes, give me supervision, give me training, and it's my honor to get to feel like I can contribute to that for others. And hopefully, those people who get trained and specialize this will go on to save more lives and heal more families and spread more awareness, and hopefully even prevent some people from ever developing issues from it at all.
Mm. Yeah, and so you mentioned the training, you mentioned the people that helped you along the way. As someone without any lived experience with gambling harm, what were some of the things that you did to be able to make that connection when you talk to someone?
um, It's funny because gambling was not really a part of my life much when I entered it. Neither were substances when I became a substance use disorder counselor.
Sure.
Now, with substances, I wasn't about to go out there and start trying things, but with gambling, what I could do is hop on YouTube. And I started YouTubing all of these different gambling games and just learning, like, what are these games and um, what's the lingo, what's the concept, which games are dice or cards or tables or machines, and all of this. And it was also kind of interesting as a person who specialized in addictions to get to be seeing it from that lens and see all of these things that make it very understandable why this stuff is addicting. I had never I think I'd been in a casino once before coming on board with the council, and that was simply to take program flyers to a local casino before that. But now we do staff training for the industry. We host trainings at casinos, so now I'm in them multiple times a year, and it's just kind of a fascinating world. And it's also a very cool part of my job to get to inform people who work in the industry about problem gambling and gambling disorder. They didn't go to counselor school. They don't understand addiction. They're seeing it. They understand there's something there and they're concerned about it, but they couldn't explain it to you better than someone else. So getting to come in and kind of explain, here's what's going on and here's what you're seeing and here's what you can do about it, here's how you can respond, is I think it's a real privilege to get to do that and help make
Yeah,
some changes to their RG policies and programs, and hopefully amp up what they can do to prevent problems from happening for people.
for sure. I mean, I spent on and off like 6 years in the casino industry, and
Yeah.
I can remember maybe like during a new hire orientation, they would gloss over one PowerPoint slide of like, okay, here's what to look for, with for a problem gambler, and then that's it. You know what I mean? So it's amazing that you guys are doing that. It's great.
Yeah, we come in and do usually about an hour and a half with all of the managers and supervisors, an hour to an hour and a half with the frontline staff. The new hire is about half an hour, and we spend an extra hour with RG ambassadors, who are the people we train to actually respond to guests that they think are struggling in some sort of way, and how to have an interaction when they're concerned about somebody.
And for the modern meeting audience, RG, you're talking responsible
gaming. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No.
Yep.
I just want to make sure I was
Yep.
100%.
Yeah, the industry generally will refer to it as their responsible gaming policies and procedures. This includes things from preventing underage people from gambling, from serving alcohol responsibly, to staff training, to marketing messages, to making sure their advertising is not especially attractive to children. All of those things are part of their responsible gaming policies. The average guest might not necessarily see all of them, but those are some of the things. The voluntary self-exclusion program.
Yeah. So speaking of RG, right?
Yeah.
I need you to sell me on, because for me, right, responsible gambling is nothing more than just people that don't have a problem, right? Like responsible gambling is just essentially the way I drink. Like I can have one drink, right? I mean, I'm not going to keep, saying what I think about it. But like the last thing I'll say is that I have a hard time believing that someone who lands on that spectrum, whether it's problem gambling or on the verge, I don't think that they can gamble responsibly. But you tell me, like, break it down for us. When you say responsible gambling, like, what do you mean by that?
For the individual, not the industry. Okay. So, like all things, it's not black and white. There is a spectrum. People's lives are complex. Phases of life, times of year, life circumstances all play a role, right? So if we think about alcohol, there are people who might drink too much, some sort of an oops happens, and they think, wow, that was ridiculous. I can't believe I did that. Does that mean they have an alcohol use disorder? Well, not necessarily, right? It was a one-time oops, they got lucky. And if they don't have an alcohol use disorder, they'll probably change their behavior and never do it again, because it totally freaks them out. If they do have an alcohol use disorder once developing, then they might not make as big of a change to their behavior, and there could be a risk of an oops happening again. So gambling is kind of like that. There is a spectrum in which oopses happen. We're not so concerned about the oopses. For those people, responsible gambling messages, or what we're starting to see them called more often, and I'll explain why, might be referred to as tips for safer betting or tips for reduced risk of harm betting. It's a little bit tricky with language because you don't want to accidentally imply safe betting and then people bet more, thinking that now they're safe from it, because that can backfire.
Yep.
And we're not saying tips for less risk betting in that you're at less risk of losing money, because that's not true. You're just going to lose your money no matter what. That's how gambling works. But it's really, the reason the language is shifting is because the term responsible gambling to someone who is struggling with the problem has probably already tried all of the guidelines. They're not working. Exactly. And so to them, exactly. To them, it can feel like, well, if I don't do your little guidelines, then you think I'm irresponsible. And that's really not the message that anybody's trying to send, but you can certainly understand why it would send that message.
For sure.
So anyway, just to say, you might see it called something else depending on whose website you're on. We are becoming more conscious in our language with the responsible gambling guidelines are like responsible drinking guidelines for the general public who are not struggling, are not having problems, and it's about prevention, right? There might be some oopses in there, but we can still prevent problems from developing. Some of these guidelines would be treating gambling as an expense for entertainment. You should have a budget for your household. All of your needs are covered. All of your fixed expenses, all of your flexible expenses are covered. The money you have left over after all of your needs are met and most of your wants are met, right? The things you want to save for, the things you want to plan in the future for, the money left over, which you can do whatever you want with, spend on entertainment, spend on hobbies. Entertainment and hobby money, that's where gambling money should stay. That's the only category of the budget in which any gambling money should come out of. Not from necessities and not from all of your extra spending, because you want to save that stuff for a vacation or you want to replace the TV. That stuff needs to be able, you should have money for that too. So guidelines would include keeping in mind that it's an expense for entertainment. It should only come out of that part of the budget. You expect to lose, you don't expect to win. I could take X number of dollars and go to get food and see a movie, or I could take the same X number of dollars and go gamble with it. But either way, I'm expecting to just pay that for the entertainment. Going out to see a movie shouldn't be causing an argument at home. It shouldn't be causing stress, guilt, or shame. Going to gamble shouldn't be causing an argument at home, should not be causing stress, guilt, or shame. So when people start sort of feeling like gambling is starting to cause some of these issues, or it's starting to take more of their money in their recreational spending than it should be, that's where I start to be concerned, even if it's not really causing any problems. There might be a one-off oops, but not that big a deal kind of an oops. When we start to see a pattern of oopses, when we start to see that it is taking more of their time, more of their money, more of their mental energy than a general hobby should be taking, then we're concerned. And that's long before we're to the stage of a gambling disorder.
Sure. Yeah.
We're still a long way from a gambling disorder. And I'm going to be wanting to do some education, some guidelines, and a person you can always suggest just take a break for a while and see what happens. See if it's harder than you thought.
Yeah. I was about to, as you started this, I was about to pounce when you talked about the needs. And I was going to be like, well, I used to say that. And then you followed it up with also the wants. Like that's so important. Because for me, for so many years, my excuse, my justification was always, well, listen, all my bills are paid. Every bill is paid. I'm not behind on anything. Yeah. So what I want to do with this money is fine. But to your point,
it shouldn't take all of it.
It shouldn't take all of it. And if my friends say, let's go get a beach house for the summer, and every single one of them can easily come up with $800 for the beach house, I live paycheck to paycheck because I don't have any savings whatsoever. So yeah, no, I love that. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And the other thing you said about the oops and the drinking, I mean, so, there's probably been a handful of times in my life where, I've gotten to the point where like I blacked out. I've probably done that like 2 or 3 times. And after that happens, I don't drink for months. And then when I do drink again, like I'm scared shitless of it. And so, but with gambling, I would, I declared bankruptcy. I stole, I did everything and I kept going. So it makes so much sense. I love it. I love how you're breaking this down. It's great. So take us into Evergreen. I want to know everything about Evergreen. So,
oh gosh.
So not everything. Not everything, but the thing that I love about Evergreen, it's been around since 1991, similar to Maryhaven, which I don't know if you're familiar with. Oh, I had Abdullah on. Shout out to Abdullah. Maryhaven in Columbus. All the time you hear as early as 2000 or the late 90s, yeah, we didn't know about gambling. We didn't know about GA. No one knew it was a problem. You guys have been doing this years before that. So kind of talk about how it seems like Evergreen was like ahead of the curve, where you guys saw this coming years, decades before everyone else did.
Yeah. And I like to give a little bit of grace to the reason we're like 50 years behind on the awareness front. Okay. I mean, we are. Yeah. So here's the thing. If people aren't familiar with it, there's this big, thick book called the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, currently version 5, text revision. Version 5 was published in 2013. The previous version came out in the 90s. I don't remember which year, but you can fact check me easily. Sometime in the 90s. So, gambling disorder in the previous version prior to 2013 was classified as an impulse control disorder, listed along with things like obsessive compulsive disorder. And it was understood as a mental health condition similar to obsessive compulsive disorder. Now, thanks to a few decades of research that showed it has more in common with substance addiction than it does to impulse control disorders, it got moved in 2013 to this section of substance-related and addictive disorders, and it is the only non-substance related addictive disorder that's listed there. Rumor has it video gaming is next, right? But so if you think about that, did people know that gambling could be addicting? Yes. But it wasn't until the publication of the DSM-5 in 2013 that insurance would cover it as an addiction.
Wow.
Right? So once insurance started covering it as an addiction, my argument is, and if you ask 10 different people, you'll get 10 different answers on this probably, right? But my argument is that's really what has put fuel on the fire to the general public and the current healthcare system understanding it as an addictive disorder. And so if you take that perspective that the large population and the healthcare industry as a whole wasn't really recognizing it because, things follow where the money goes until 2013, that's a really young understanding. And so it's not really fair to put such a young understanding of it as an addictive disorder to retroactively apply that to an industry that's been around for hundreds of years, to healthcare providers that have been around for a long time. So yes, to your point, agencies like ours and the many other incredible agencies, many of them that we partner with around the country that were doing this work early on, were kind of ahead of the curve in that way. There was research, there was data, but again, until insurance was billing for it in that way, that's really what I think fueled more of the awareness on this.
And so the research that you're talking about that brought it into that different section of the DSM, what was the type of research that came to light?
A lot of it, and you know what? I can probably give you some names of some researchers to have on that could explain this more intelligently than I can, but I'll give it to you the normal person version. A lot of it has to do with how it releases dopamine in the brain, right? So our brains get addicted to something not because of the chemical we ingest, but because of our own chemical in our brain already that we get addicted to. We don't have to be scared of dopamine. It's not a scary chemical. It gets released when you eat your favorite foods, when you ride a roller coaster, when you do something fun. But in those sorts of normal activities, it's getting released in a small, reasonable dose. Substances, as well as some activities like gambling, video gaming, and other activities, will release it in a high dose, and then some of those make it easily accessible. So the fastest dopamine releasing substance, do you know what it is?
Cocaine.
No.
Gambling.
No. Substance.
Oh, substance. I'm going to say opiates then?
Tobacco.
What?
Every puff of a cigarette releases dopamine.
Get out of here.
Right. So
no wonder why they can't quit.
Yeah, exactly. So
wait, so hold on. So I'm not to cut you off. So does that also apply to like Zins and vapes and Juuls and all of it? Okay.
Yeah. Nicotine is the dopamine releasing addictive ingredient in all tobacco and nicotine products, and nicotine comes from the tobacco plant. So all nicotine products are still containing
Yeah.
So when people say, well, I'm addicted to cigarettes and I should just switch to a nicotine, that's just switching to another chemical that is the chemical you're already addicted to. So it's not
Exactly.
necessarily helpful.
It's
Now,
like the
there's also
alcoholic
getting
who,
addicted to the behavior and the rituals. So maybe
right.
that can change, but still.
Hmm.
Um, Again, tobacco is my first specialty. So,
Yeah. I should have guessed that. I should
yeah,
have
so
guessed that.
every single puff of a cigarette or a vape or whatever it is releasing dopamine in the brain. So how many of those is someone doing over a single day?
Yeah.
Well, what beats that is gambling and video gaming,
Okay.
right? So with gambling, I'll pick on slot machines because they're easy to pick on for this. Every press of the button, regardless of what the outcome will be, releases dopamine. Because I press the button to make the bet and I think this could be it, right? And
Yes.
there's that moment of excitement. That moment of excitement is the dopamine release. This could be it. If that bet turns out to be a win, second hit of dopamine on a single bet because it was a win. If it turns out to be a loss, nothing, goes back to set, next bet. But then there's this other factor called a loss disguised as a win, which is when, let's say, I bet 100 credits on multiple lines and the machine recognizes a win on some of those. I have won 50 credits. So the machine does a little dance, sings a little song, makes a little noise. You won 50 credits. No.
You lost.
Yeah, you lost. You lost 50 credits. That's the reality, right?
Oh, it's so funny.
Exactly. So that's the losses disguised as win factor happens quite frequently, and that also gives a second dose. So every single bet is a hit of dopamine. Some of those are 2 hits of dopamine.
Mm. So now, when it comes to dopamine, do you have any idea, like the scale of it? Like, has there been research done as to, like, the puff of a cigarette is 10 times
Oh
stronger
gosh, yes,
than?
there has, and
Oh,
no,
so
I
let's
can't
hear it.
quote it for you.
But so far, everything you just quoted was amazing. So it made total sense. So yeah, tell us about the scale.
I think the biggest culprit in terms of highest dose is still amphetamines, though, because it
Okay,
basically dumps all of it,
okay,
and then it lasts for like 8 hours.
wow, okay,
So I don't know that gambling beats meth in terms of the extent of what it's dumping of your
hmm,
dopamine reservoir, but with amphetamines, it's hit once and it lasts for several hours, whereas with gambling, it's very repetitive. It's continuing to do it again and again and again over several
yeah.
hours.
Now, has there been any research done? Because I think it's really interesting. Like, sports betting is a completely different animal than casino gambling. I mean, at least as far as I was concerned, like where it's not that constant near win. You're not hitting a button. Like if you're watching a boring game, even if you have $5,000 on it, like there's a point in the game where you almost might lose interest. I don't know. Like, has there been any research done as far as like dopamine when it comes to sports betting?
Um, I'll answer your question you asked, and then I'll also answer one you didn't ask. Yes, I think there has. No, I couldn't tell you what it says. That's the easy answer to the question you did
Yeah.
ask. But let me touch on something else here. So I want to give people a little bit of a peek behind the curtain to the diagnosing of these disorders, right?
Mm-hmm.
With substance use disorders, we diagnose them separately. There's no diagnosis code for quote unquote substance use disorder, but there is for alcohol use disorder, opiate use disorder, cannabis use disorder, tobacco use disorder, and so on and so on. They're separate. Now, does someone's life, and substances even have their own culture, the life of the drink beer after work men, the drink wine after work women, you should go look at the pajama section of any female section in the store. It's all wine references. It's weird. Anyway, it's a whole culture. There's cannabis culture, right? Heroin looks different. Prescription pill use looks different, right? And a person who has one substance use disorder is not necessarily going to be doing all of those things, right?
Right. Right.
They're going to gravitate towards one, maybe two. Some people use a lot of them. We're looking at polysubstance use disorders there. Now, with gambling disorder, what's interesting is they're all lumped together. There's just one code,
Yeah.
one gambling disorder code, but they are not all
At
alike.
all. At all.
Yeah.
At
And you
all.
think the cultures that are different with these too. Sports betting, someone who likes to do sports betting looks a little bit different than someone who likes poker, looks a little bit different than someone who likes slot machines, looks a little bit different than someone who just does things on their phone, or dice, or, craps. They look different. They have different cultures. They have different expressions.
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that was all awesome. I know I asked about Mary Haven. I still want to. Not Mary Haven. Evergreen. So.
Oh yeah. You want to
No,
know what we actually do?
But yeah. So Evergreen. Give us a little short history, and then like when you got there, and yeah, just tell us everything.
Yeah. So we do not provide direct treatment services.
Okay.
But we own and maintain the helpline, which directs people to all of the treatment providers in our state. We do training. We train professionals who want to specialize in this. We train peers with lived experience in this. We train gambling industry staff. We speak for attorneys, for addiction medicine conferences. We go to other conferences and speak. We do awareness. Right now, we almost have, our goal is to have some sort of awareness campaign running 365 days a year. We used to have maybe only 1 or 2 campaigns a year. Now we have almost the whole year covered. We do sports betting awareness. We do specific cultural groups and age groups, responsible gifting. Lottery tickets are not appropriate gifts for children. Don't put scratch-off tickets and Christmas stockings and birthday cards and things like this. I tell people you wouldn't buy your kid a bottle of alcohol. Don't buy them a scratch-off ticket either. We do, and part of that is we have a healing animal adoptions program where people can adopt plushies. It kind of ties to our responsible gifting, because gifting a kid a plushie, absolutely child appropriate.
They love plushies.
And if someone adopts one of our plushies, some of the proceeds go to support Northwest Battle Buddies, which is a program that trains service dogs for veterans and gives those service dogs to veterans for free. Lifeline Connections Healing Equine Therapy Program, it supports those too. We have a Youth Have the Power program online where anyone ages 9 to like 25-ish can go online and do a curriculum around problem gambling and gaming to learn about it, and then complete challenges which earn them points, which they then can redeem for awards, which incentivize them to do protective factors. There's no randomization about it. I have to be very clear with people like, oh, you're teaching gambling? Absolutely not. There's no randomization. It's like job store model. This challenge is worth this many points. This award's worth this many points. If you want this award, get that many points through doing the challenges, and the challenges get them involved in their community and get them in touch with safe and supportive adults and resources in their community, and thinking about mental health and behavioral health and recovery.
And is this only for people that live in Washington, all these things you're talking about?
No. Our Youth Have the Power program, it started off in Washington, but it's had such interest nationally that we just made a few tweaks to the curriculum and are doing more awards that are national, be it chains, museums or parks that have, places around the country, or things that can be mailed out like books and journals or things like that. And we'll have sponsors in different parts of the country that might donate awards so that people in their area could redeem those awards to incentivize, their young people in their communities. We have a lot of trainings that are online and self-directed. We have the 2-hour gambling exam prep course for those who go on to get the international certification, and people take that from all over the world. We have an online self-directed foundations and gaming disorder training.
So you have a lot.
Oh, we have a podcast and a YouTube channel.
What the heck? I want to be on the podcast.
Yeah.
You got to get me on there. Um, so talk about because you started at Evergreen pre-chaos, right around when the legalization happened. But like from when you started to now, talk about like how crazy like was it, and like how much did the ground shift from when you started to present day?
I started September 2019, and then 6 months later, everything shut down.
Right.
So I want to mention the pandemic because that drastically changed our work first, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We had 6 months to go from 100% in-person training basically to 100% virtual, as many other people had to do. That also changed things for the industry as well. The casinos got shut down, which also caused a decrease in the funding available for problem gambling for our agency, for other nonprofits and other community health services in the area that depend on funds from that. I think it also turned people online more. We saw the rise of loot boxes more in the pandemic. And we saw changes in legalization and regulation around loot boxes around the country. They're not regulated as gambling in the US, but they are in some other countries.
And what are those? I don't even know what those are.
Loot boxes?
Yeah.
So, thank you. So, think of a loot box as the slot machine of video games. Okay. So graphically, it's going to look different game to game because it's going to fit the theme. It will not always look like a box. Though some games do, they look like a trunk or a chest or something. In some games, they're not really gambling. In some games, everybody just earns them through gameplay at equal rates. They're not spending money on them. And there's nothing in them that really is going to make or break their success in the game, right? Randomization in game is not really the issue. That's kind of the crux of what makes games is there's random stuff going on. But in some games, you have to pay money for the loot box, or you get the loot box for free, but then you have to pay money to open it. And essentially, they will advertise, here's your odds of winning these different items inside this box or crate or whatever. Genshin Impact calls them wishes, and it looks like a banner, like a billboard, but it's a loot box mechanic. If you want to listen to one of our episodes, there's one like in our first season, which was back in 2020, of someone who basically developed a full-blown both video gaming disorder and gambling disorder, and he'd never set foot in a casino. All the gambling was via loot boxes inside video games, and developed 2 disorders from this. He explains it really well. He says basically, think of it as one item you might win when you open it is the value of a house. So that's why you would spend money. That's why you'd spend $5, $10, whatever it is to open the box, because there's no way you could outright pay for this legendary item you might have a chance of winning. But the rest of the box is filled with tissue boxes and water bottles. The equivalent of, right? Now, it might be weapons or this, that, or the other, but it's the kind of weapons a person already has, or they're, not that valuable, or whatever the box contains. He's like, so they advertise the odds of winning this legendary item, and that's why people would spend money, because if they get it, it's worth it. But most of the time, what they're going to end up with is stuff that they don't want or already have, and it's not that valuable to them.
And whoever created this, did they know what they were doing? Or was it more of like it was meant to be just a feature of the game and it kind of morphed into this?
I've really enjoyed getting to listen to podcasts and videos from people who have worked in this space, some who still worked in this space, some who have left and then are talking about it. What I tend to hear is they had no idea.
Yeah.
But what people tend to say is you should have known.
Yeah.
Right? Like, social media platforms had no idea, nor really could they have known, the power of a like button
Mm.
and what that would do among
Mm-hmm.
society, right?
Mm.
I don't know that they could have known the full extent of the power of a loot box, but
Mm.
I do think they should have done some more research on how that is basically just a slot machine mechanic. It's just
Yeah.
gambling and it's accessible to children.
Yeah.
Um, that's one of the reasons why they're being regulated or banned or scrutinized in other countries. And there's,
Mm.
I don't know if you go on Reddit at all, but on some of those forums, like the Reddit problem gambling thread, um, I've seen stories of people who said, I was gambling free in full recovery from a gambling disorder and just played video games for fun and recreation. No problems at all until loot boxes came around, and that full blown triggered my gambling disorder. Now I'm out tens of thousands, if not $100,000 spent on these loot boxes.
So is that similar to, I had someone on recently who,
And it's not the only gambling mechanic. Let me just add. I know we're talking about that, but there's so many more gambling mechanics
well, I was going to
beyond just
say,
that too.
I had a guest on recently who at 11 years old, he got addicted to like the skins that you can get
And you
in
can do
video games.
third-party skins betting as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolute insanity. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
oh, so basically from what I'm gathering, Evergreen, it sounds like you guys are like a hub for, you have all these amazing resources that you refer to people to, and then you guys are also just spreading awareness left and right.
Absolutely.
You're training people, like it's amazing. So now, why? And it's a similar question that I asked to Brian Ward, who is him and Kitty are out in Oregon.
Mm-hmm. Know them well.
Why does it seem like the Pacific Northwest is really going above and beyond while some other areas of the country just have nothing? What is it
Because
about you
we're
guys?
amazing. No, I'm just
I
kidding.
mean, besides that, besides the obvious, but yeah, like what is? I don't understand. I just don't understand. I mean, I live in a state. Shout out to the Mass Council on Gaming and Health. They're amazing too. But like,
Of
I
course.
don't know. Like,
Yes.
I just feel like there's because we're at the mercy of the states, because we get no federal funding for gambling at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's really unfortunate that like some states are operating at a level that you guys are, and then others that just, if you're in a certain state, you got an uphill battle.
That's a complex answer. There's so many variables there.
Hmm.
And it's not as easy as just saying budget, because in Washington, we have one of the lowest.
See? Yeah.
Right? In other states, they have more and they might not be involved in as much. So that's not the only variable, but certainly a variable.
Yeah.
The organizations at play are a variable. In Washington, we have very good working relationships with our state program, with our gambling commission, with our tribes. ECPG has really worked hard over many years to foster those relationships and work with those. And thankfully, having some people in rulemaking and legislative positions that are sensitive to problem gambling, and we'll come in and we'll talk to the legislatures and the Gambling Commission about problem gambling and Gambling Awareness Month and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of relationship building going on there. So there's a lot of people working very hard from multiple different angles for this. We also are someone can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure we are the only council that does 2 conferences a year. So we have 2 major annual conferences every year, one in the spring and one in the fall. Plus we do workshops winter and summer. Plus we have our self-directed trainings. Plus we're guest presenting at everybody else's conferences and presentations and staff meetings and doing private trainings. We just did private training for our military base and trained like 40 of their behavioral health clinicians to help the active service members.
So you guys just hustle.
There's just a lot of variables, right?
Yeah, but you guys hustle. You get after it.
we definitely get after it. And here's the thing, right? You could have staff turnover in one agency that really can change the dynamic of what we're
Mm-hmm.
able to accomplish in our state, because we all do different things and rely on partnerships and working together to spread awareness and to get things done and to run campaigns and to host trainings and whatnot.
Yeah. So, last question. I'm going to go back to it. I told you I would. You mentioned that A word, advertising. Now,
Yeah.
I've recently come to a realization that I can't be the guy who, you know, is trying to stand on his soapbox and throw stones at the $1 trillion machine that is the operators, right? Like I'm
Your
pivoting.
arm will get sore after a while. Not much will
Yeah,
happen.
yeah. I'm pivoting slightly. Like bottom line is, this is the way the world works. This is the way it's always been. It always will be. But advertising to children specifically, I think that is something that no matter who you are, I think we can all get behind. And so,
Yes.
in your opinion, do you think there is some regulation coming down the pike where, I mean, we got to draw the line somewhere with how just the sheer volume of ads that are coming from these operators in these online sports books?
So we are not for or against gambling. We
Right.
are for legal gambling being regulated, prevention of underage gambling, etc. I'll give you an example for like from our state lottery. They have very strict regulations, and most state lotteries do, though there's some that run into some issues in the past. Um, Nothing can be especially attractive to children, right?
Mm-hmm.
So could they have a Santa? Yeah, but not a cartoon Santa,
Mm. Right.
right? Could have a gift, but not look like a child's gift or that lottery tickets. And our state lottery actually has partnered with us to license our gift responsible um, media campaign that they're using for the state lottery, which features Casey the dog in this video. uh, Santa looks like it's like he's trying to put a scratch off ticket in a child's stocking, and Casey comes up and nudges and says, nope, not in
Where
that one.
where
Move
have I
over.
seen this? Did you guys
It's
show this somewhere?
it's been around, and it's one of the campaigns that won an award at the national, though they didn't show it on screen or anything there.
What you're
But
describing though, I feel like I saw that at some
yeah,
point.
that's
Yeah, yeah,
ours.
yeah.
Yeah, and she's like, nope, put it in mom's, not an
Yep.
appropriate gift for children.
Right, right.
Um, Now, so when operators have had advertisements that were depicting maybe a cartoon that was themed from some holiday that was from a Cartoon Network, that's a violation.
Yeah.
Just sheer quantity of advertisements is not necessarily targeting children. However, with sports betting, what you do have is people are watching these in their homes
Mm-hmm.
and kids are there,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the kids are sitting there, they're all watching the sports, and then there's all of these ads coming on TV, and there might not be conversations in the home happening around what is this depicting and why are we or are we not engaging with this, and why are we not letting, hopefully not letting the children participate in this. But also what we're finding is some people in some households, the kids are right in there learning about sports betting along with the adults in the room who are engaging with it.
Just think, if I'm a 14-year-old kid and Kevin Hart is my favorite actor of all time. I've seen every one of his movies and I love him. If I see him physically putting a parlay in, how am I not going to want to do what my hero's doing?
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
mean,
would, and the other one that's gotten big right now is video gamer streamers
oh yeah.
streaming themselves on their channels, which are normally them gaming, streaming themselves doing online betting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And now the average gamer is in their 30s, but there's a higher percentage of those under 18 gaming, even though there's a higher number of gamers who are over 18. And that's strictly just because adults outpopulate the child population on the planet. But I think we see it, there's a lot of overlap here between the amount of exposure that happens because of the sports betting, and kids are involved in sports. People are gambling on the Olympics, and half of the Olympic athletes are not even 18 years old. And then also the world of, video gaming and how much children are getting exposed to gambling there. And none of that is regulated as gambling because it doesn't live in the gambling industry.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's hope people start. I know I said last question, but like, if you can answer this,
I'm good.
If you can answer this, like what's it gonna take? I ask this to everybody every week. Like, what's it gonna take? What's gonna move the needle? Is there anything that could wake up the masses to be like, okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit?
Oh gosh, I really wish I had a magic answer for you. I'm sorry, I'm sensing a pattern to my answers, which is like,
no, it's
complicated,
fun. No,
right?
no.
Like,
yeah.
There's lots of variables here, right? Coming at it from a lot of fronts, and people being willing to work together, right? We don't make enemies of the industry.
Right.
We partner with them to come in and help. We do consults to make their programs better, right? To try to help solve some of these things. Will we maybe see some changes in regulation? I hope.
Yeah.
Because things develop and progress at such a fast speed. Here's what happens, right? A new product or digital whatever comes out, loot boxes and projection market betting and all of this stuff comes out. Everybody hops on board. It skirts whatever regulation is in place. It takes time, number of years, let's say 10 years, for people to really start seeing, whoa, there's issues here. And then it takes time for the research to be done to support what people have been seeing. And then it takes time for the regulation to be put in place. So we're looking at a 30 to 40 year process sometimes for this sort of thing, right?
Right.
I hate to be a damper on this. Sometimes things can move a little bit faster than that. For me, what is the no-brainer is this is more than just preventing people having problems. This is preventing loss of life.
Yeah.
When someone is gone, we cannot help them.
Yeah.
And gambling disorder has generally the number that's quoted is 20%. Depends on the study you're looking at, what year, what population, what country, blah, blah, blah. But generally, they hover around 20% suicide attempt rate. Higher for ideation, unknown for death by suicide, but about a 20% suicide attempt rate. So we can't take this disorder lightly. People are losing their lives and their loved ones over this. So we all need to be doing as much as we can with what we have to be making a difference here.
Amen. I mean, God knows that Evergreen is pulling their weight. So the rest of
we're trying.
The rest of you states, take some
no,
notes.
There's a lot of states doing great work, and we partner with a lot of them. We've partnered with Illinois, Oklahoma, Massachusetts, Maryland, Nebraska, Texas, Louisiana, Ohio.
Every other state, though.
We can come together and get a lot of stuff done.
No, for sure. Tana, thank you so much for being on the Modern Meeting. This was both, interesting and educational. I feel like I learned some stuff. I love it. It was great.
Well, thank you. I'll probably realize I stuck my foot in my mouth on something later, but
Well, let me know if you did. I'll edit it out, but I don't think you did. I think this is great. But no, Tana Russell, thank you so much. Where can people find Evergreen or information?
Yeah, evergreencpg.org. That's www.evergreenc as in council, P as in problem, G as in gambling.org. Our podcast is the Connections Healthy Gambling and Gaming podcast. Covers all things from keeping it healthy to what it looks like when it's a full-blown disorder, everything in between, and latest trends. And then our YouTube channel is the Evergreen CPG, and we put out educational videos, sometimes some live streams, and we have subject matter experts on from around the world to talk about things in their field related to this, as well as mental health equity and social equity.
Awesome. All good things. I hope you have me on the podcast. I want to come on.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're up for it, that'd be great. I'd love to hear like your story and how you got into all of this and started the podcast.
I got a story. Hopefully the episodes are a decent amount of time. I got a story. It takes a little while.
Right. Well, hey, we can divide it into a two-parter. That's perfectly fine.
No, I'll give you the condensed version. No, for sure. But no, Tana, thank you so much for being on the Modern Meeting. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. We will be right back.